Welcome to Rekindled Faith with Melanie Bearda. Whether you've been wrestling with questions, facing doubt, or simply just uninspired, let's dive into what it means to be authentic followers of Christ. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Rekindled Faith. This week we have Bonnie Pue from the Union Movement with us. If you were here last week, then you would know that we also had Brian, her husband, on. So Brian and Bonnie started the Union Movement back in 2018 with a heart to help people find wholeness in the areas of sexuality, identity, and relationships. Bonnie is a writer, a podcaster, and a speaker, and loves sharing with people about how they can find restoration and hope in Jesus. Bonnie is also the mother to 6 sons who range between the ages of 4 to 16. Their family lives on the west coast of British Columbia, Canada, where she spends much of her days homeschooling, menu planning, and mostly trying to keep up. She loves being active in the great outdoors whenever possible, but she can also be found daily with a book, a journal, and a cup of tea in hand. Before we dive into the episode, I also wanted to remind you that the Apologetics Canada Conference is coming up here in Abbotsford, BC on March 7th and 8th at Northview Community Church. If you are interested in joining for that, the theme this year is Theology of Technology. And I'll have the website link in the bio or the show notes if you're interested in looking at that. If you are unable to attend in person, they do have the option of getting the recordings of the conference once the conference is done. And I think they might even actually have a live option. So definitely go check that out if that is something that interests you. And otherwise, let's dive into the episode. Hello, Bonnie. Welcome to Rekindled Faith. I'd love it if you would share with our listeners a little bit more about who you are and your ministry.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be a guest with you here. So my name is Bonnie. I've been married to my husband Brian for 17 years now, and together we have 6 kids, and they all happen to be boys. So 6 sons, and ranging in age from 16 down to 4 years old. So it is a full life. We have a lot of fun. And I spend the majority of my hours as a homeschool stay-at-home mom. But my husband and I also lead a ministry called the Union Movement, which is all about helping people find wholeness in the areas of sexuality, identity, and relationships. And so we're developing resources and speaking at events and just trying to equip churches to have just like a compassionate, full of conviction stance on a lot of the topics that are either like emotionally charged or just completely avoided. So that's my life in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Yeah, having the conversations that I think a lot of us have experienced, I guess, fear around almost. Like growing up for me in the church, we didn't talk about a lot of things. And I think that a lot of people, wow, I can only really speak for myself, but I had a lot of questions and I didn't get a lot of answers. And so I just ended up walking away from faith. So I appreciate the ministry work that you and Brian are doing and the conversations and even like the topics that you speak on and everything, the things that you're doing, I appreciate. And I think that it's super beneficial to our society as a whole, especially with all of the questions that people have today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're hearing from a lot of people just that they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so needed." And so I'm really grateful that, cuz maybe a decade or two ago it would have been like, "Sorry, you do what?" You guys are I mean, we I don't feel sorry for my kids. Like, I know that God gives them the grace to be the children of parents like us, but in some ways it's like, yeah, I know this is a strange thing. What does your mom and dad do? What's your dad do for work? It's like they have the best conversations ever. But it really actually is an honor to be able to have conversations. Scripture says that if you know the truth, then truth can set you free. And so it's amazing to be in the room and watch as even the word is unfolded and we get to minister and pray for people. It's like they literally step into a greater place of clarity and freedom and knowing the love of God. So it is really fun.
Yeah, enriching.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, I am excited for what we're going to talk about today, which stems from your testimony, your story of growing up in the church. And so I'm just going to let you do the job of really opening up the conversation, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm excited to share this part of my story because um, I mean, it's interesting. All of us have complex stories in the sense that there's different lessons that we have learned, different obstacles that the Lord has like journeyed with us around. And so often I share about the part of my story that was sexual brokenness in a church leader that just kind of like really like shook me. And how do I trust leaders? And like sexual sin is just like this dirty thing. And that's the part of my story I talk about a lot. But an area that I don't get to talk about so much is how me as a church kid actually had to get saved. And and not because I ran away from God, not because I abandoned the church and I didn't even really go through a rebellious stage. Um, well, I guess I can go into that, but I'm excited to share about it. So starts with my parents met in youth group when they were like 19, like kind of the young adult group of their church. They met there, got married, had my sister, and and then 2 years later had me. And they were like, we don't really know how do we do Christian family well? And so they just like listened to Dr. James Dobson, focus on the family, and they're like, okay, so we're going to do family meals together. We're going to, I mean, I don't know what else was in the magazines. They just would be like, oh, okay, this is an important tool. Okay, let's apply it. So I grew up with intentional parents, not perfect parents, but intentional parents who um, had a lot of fun memories together. And being a part of the church community was a huge piece of it. I honestly, up until 2020 with the COVID shutdowns, I would be like, I could probably count on one or two hands the number of Sunday services that I missed. Like it was just like, we just do that. And there's midweek service and there's Sunday night services. And um, I have really fond memories of my childhood within the church. And other than like having to wear knee socks, I hated that in Sunday school. I don't know why I had to, but my mom would make me and I would always push them down. And then I'd come out of Sunday school and she'd be like, pull your socks up. And I would lie and say that they fell down by themselves, but they didn't. Anyway, but I liked most of Sunday school. And there was this one kid, Aaron, who could always beat me in sword drills, but I was probably like him and I were like vying for first place. Do most people know what sword drills are? I don't even know if my kids would.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Okay. So what you would do is you would sit, all the kids in Sunday school would sit with their like Bibles above their heads closed. And then they would the teacher would like say a verse like Colossians 1 verse 4, and then go. And then everyone like races to find it. So they called them sword drills. Um, anyways, but Aaron, he was fast, man. So, anyways, lots of good memories, lots of fun. Uh, but the thing was, man, it's like a interesting weaving of these beautiful moments with the Lord. Even I remember as a 7-year-old, experiencing now what I would say is the presence of God in a worship setting and starting to cry and not understanding why, and saying to my mom, like, how do I know God is real? How do I like? It feels like God's real. I do not know what's happening right now. And I realized that was him kind of calling to me and stirring my heart. And so things like that, even going into like when I'm trying to like think what parts of my story. When I was 10, I had like another cool experience with the Lord, and someone um, felt like they had heard a message from God for me and spoke to me. Um, the verse that says like deep calls to deep, and that's found in Psalms. And they said like God like sees the deep things of your heart and he's calling to you. So like just great, great moments. But I would say that um, the thing that when I look back now, I really, oh, are you okay?
Yeah, I just muted because I had to cough.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
I suddenly am like, am I not reading cues? Yeah.
Melanie's dying over here. No, it's
You're
fine.
like 911. Um, um, what was I saying? Oh, just is that I didn't know what my testimony was. And I was a kid who would like ask Jesus into my heart over and over again because I wasn't sure if it worked. And I would, ask God for forgiveness for the sins that I committed that day, even if I didn't know what they were. I was like fumbling with this idea of salvation. But as I got older, uh, I don't know, I guess I would have described myself as a good kid. Like, if someone were to say, like, what's your testimony? I would have said, like, I don't know. I'm kind of a good kid. Like, I, and as I got even older in my teen years, it's like, I didn't sneak out. I wasn't swearing behind my parents' back. I never tasted alcohol. I wasn't smoking or trying drugs. And so I would just say, like, yeah, I'm just a good kid. Um, but I also didn't have assurance of salvation. And I didn't know how to get it. Like, it's kind of just like, well, believe in your heart that Christ was raised from the dead and you will be saved. And I was like, well, to the best of my ability, I am believing in my heart, but I don't know. Like, okay, just continue on this path, I guess. And um, yeah, so that was significant though, that I didn't know what I was saved from. And people would say, and I still hear people say it, where they'd say, well, your testimony is you were saved from all that. Like it was prevented. You never had to experience the broken family or the abuse and that is the grace of God. Like that is the goodness of God in my life, that I had a sense of an inheritance from my parents and their choices. And I want that for my kids, like that they would get that preservation. They don't have to suffer through those sins. But I think it's incomplete for the kids who think they're good and the church kids who or maybe they almost go like, I don't know what I'm saved from. Do I need a savior is really the question. And when I was around 16 or 17, again, I'm still like just faithfully a part of church, part of youth group, grateful for my youth leaders, having a good time. Um, I remember during one worship service on a Sunday morning, a couple songs in, being like, I'm just going to go to the washroom because you're just a little bit bored, just going to go to the washroom. And when I came back out of the hallway and I stood at the back of the auditorium and I watched people really worship, I remember so vividly thinking, either these people are faking it or I am missing something. And I mean, I could kind of see areas of compromise in my life or just kind of like not passion. Like it was just kind of like it felt dull inside. And I remember thinking, like, well, before I make an accusation to say, like, they're all faking it, maybe I need to give it, like, actually go all in and let's give it a real shot of, maybe starting to like fast and pray, maybe start to, I don't know, just kind of stir up my commitment to a personal relationship with God. And so I did. And there was some trials and kind of difficulties in my friend group at the time that left me feeling kind of lonely and with more free time. and coming to youth group and not really having someone to sit beside other than the youth leaders. And so I was like, all right, here's my chance to kind of give the Lord a little bit more of myself. And through that journey, like through that next year, year and a half, I actually signed up for it was a 1 year long discipleship school process, just in a nearby city. So nothing exotic, even though I had dreams of like, I want to travel the world. I'm like, yeah, well, I'll go to Chilliwack is where I'll end up. Anyways, but in that year, it actually, it really changed my life. And I started to really hear the Lord for myself and um, kind of, it was like I started a discipleship process, not just I believe in God, I confess him as Lord, but I am now like kind of everything's laid out and he's Lord of all to the extent that I understood. And one day uh, there was a big group, it was a big group of us, big class. And so we had a bus that we would travel on. And we were going down south. I think we were on our way to California on this bus. It was in the evening and I was doing my personal, just like Bible reading time. And I don't totally know what happened. Um, but all of a sudden I sensed the voice of God say to me, Bonnie, why do you call yourself good? Going back to that, I'm just a good kid. Why do you call yourself good? There is no one good but God. And it's a verse that's found in Mark chapter 10 where somebody comes to Jesus and says like, good teacher, kind of what must I do to be saved? And Jesus replies, why do you call me good? There's no one good but God. And I know it's kind of a different context of how the Lord was speaking to me, but he just kind of called me out. And there is no one good but God. And then he led me to go to Revelations chapter 3, where there's this prophetic letter from John the Apostle to the church in Laodicea, and the message to that church, maybe we could say to a whole bunch of church kids, was, you think you have everything that you need. You think that you're well dressed and that you're wealthy and that you're well fed and that you have nothing that you need. But the reality is that you are wretched and you are poor and you are blind. And I mean, I was thinking about it before we even came on this call. I'm like, God, like in that moment in the back of the bus, like I don't remember you saying like a really kind, like, and I love you so much, Bonnie. But it was like he showed me what I needed to be saved from. And it was I needed to be saved from my own self-righteousness, from my own pride, from my own like that I was comparing myself to others and thinking I was good instead of looking at God himself and recognizing like you are holy. And if I even just sin once, I have violated your holy law and I am worthy of judgment. I earn judgment as a church kid. And it's not like we sin and that makes us a sinner, but it's like right from like nobody taught me to sin. I knew how to do that within myself. I was a sinner and that's why I sinned. And so then I don't know that was the moment that I came to salvation, but that was the moment I understood what I had received in salvation. And from that day on, my confidence in my salvation was secure. And that was when I was 19 years old. That's 20 years ago. From then on, I've known that I belong to him because now I see what he saved me from. And so it was a really life-changing life-changing encounter.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there's a few different things that you were saying, but I've I just want to point out, like, I've encountered a lot of people that have reached out to me because of this ministry that I'm doing in my podcast. And they're in living in fear of not knowing whether or not they have salvation, and living in fear that they don't, and they don't know how to get it or why God feels distant and all of those things. So I just appreciate your testimony and your story, because in part that it speaks hope for those people. How would you encourage them though?
Yeah. Well, I guess I would say, like, don't quit fighting until you have the assurance. That the assurance is, like, that it is tangible, that it's real, and that it changes everything. And I'm not so for if you're listening and you're like, "Am I saved? Am I not saved? I don't know yet." I'm not saying that you're not saved, but I'm just saying press in until you're sure. And I mean, the scriptures talk about that before without Christ, it's like we have a veil over our eyes. It's like we cannot see. And I don't like I look back at my own story, and some people could say, like, this is the day that I got saved. This is the day everything turned around for me. I'm like, well, I don't know. Did it happen when I was like 5 and asked Jesus in my heart? Did it happen when I was 7 and the Lord met me in that worship service and I started to cry? Did it happen when I was 10 and I responded to that altar call? Did it happen when I was 13 and I, rededicated my life at a youth camp, right? When did it happen for me? But all I know is that as the Lord reveals himself to you, you just keep saying yes. And maybe that's where that, like, there's this phrase that I've heard theologians or people use of, we are saved, we're being saved, and one day ultimately we will be saved in the resurrection, from the dead. And I think that the assurance, don't give up searching for it, because you might be like the 17-year-old me who said maybe these people are all faking it, or maybe I'm missing something. And if I had walked at that moment, because I just saw people like enthusiastically singing and dancing, but people could do that and be faking it, right? But if I had walked at that moment, I never would have experienced the richness of what it is to be a disciple of Jesus. Yeah. So dive in. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's perseverance, right? And
Right.
I think it's like it's easy for us to just walk away. I mean, if I was in your shoes in that youth group, I probably just I wouldn't even had that second plan B option of, or maybe I'm missing something. I would have been like, wow, these people are just crazy. And leave.
Right.
I'm gonna go. Like, that's just how I would have responded.
Yeah.
So, like, but that just shows that you had a level of perseverance within you, that you
Mm-hmm.
weren't willing to just throw it all away because you were just unsure. You're
Yeah.
like, no, I need to press in. I need to dig. Okay, Lord, what do you have for me here? How
Yeah.
can you reveal yourself? So praise God that there's
Yeah.
people that have that level of perseverance, that don't just give up and throw it all away. Because I think that in the time that we're living, it's a lot more glamorized to just like, oh, well, this doesn't work, so I'm just out. I'm just going to give
Yeah.
up. Like, oh, well, God's not talking to me. He's talking to Bonnie over there. Fine. Well, I'm out of
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Right. So like we live in this instant culture, and what a word for people hearing your testimony in this perspective of, you know what, hold on, press into Christ, continue to seek out him and his
Yeah.
salvation through the word of like the word of God.
I mean, I think of the verse that says, "Seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart." Right? And
Yeah,
how difficult is it to seek someone with all your heart? That that's actually really challenging. And
it
that's
is.
me as like a Jesus follower. Like, I've been doing this for a while and I go, "With all my heart, Jesus?" But I wonder if even sometimes even the command, be holy, for I am holy. The Bonnie who thought she was a good kid thought that sounds possible. But the Bonnie who realized that she was naked and poor and wretched, I was completely humbled. And I went, that's impossible for me to be holy. So, and then you go, God, well then were you just cruel to put out this command that you knew we couldn't fulfill? But I think in some ways it's like, he's being strategic to almost push us to recognize ourselves. Do you think you're good on your own? Right? Like the rich young ruler who came to Jesus, like, yeah, I've been following these commands ever since I was young. And Jesus is like, but would you give everything? And he pushes back and goes, because this one thing you've not done is you haven't sold everything to follow me. And the rich young ruler's like, oh, that's too much
Yeah.
because I need to stay self-sufficient. And so the book of Hebrews is like it's like a mind, I don't know, like if I read it just recently and you go, this whole thing is about working hard so that you can enter rest. And it talks about Jesus being the ultimate promised land and the Israelites going through the wilderness. And it's like, and don't harden your hearts. Don't give in to unbelief. Otherwise, you won't enter rest. So Jesus isn't into like this like performance, strive, just do more. He's like, recognize that I am your rest. Recognize I fulfilled all righteousness. And now it's a gift to you, right? Even the church of Laodicea, right after he rebukes them and says, you think you have it all together. And I wish you're neither hot nor cold. You're lukewarm. It's disgusting. It makes me want to vomit. And then he goes, and I stand at the door and I knock. And if you'll just let me in, we could sit together and we could have dinner together and visit and be connected to each other. And you realize, like, Jesus, you're more about our hearts and our, like, I don't know, us softening our hearts and opening up even more than you're about our track record, and that's just beautiful. Yeah, that means a lot to me.
Yeah. And how you said too, like when you look to God, you saw that you were not good. Like you were not as good as you thought you were.
Yeah,
And I think that a lot of us get quickly offended by that instead of seeing it as a humbling thing of like, wow, you are God. You are a lot bigger than I am. You are
right,
holy. You are good. You are pure. Who am I? And I think that a lot of people in the world have a hard time understanding that from
right.
the perspective of recognizing like, yeah, no, I'm a sinner. Melanie is a sinner. I've been saved by grace. I've been saved by the sacrifice of Christ, that he chose
Yeah,
me, that he pursued me, that he's offered me this gift of life.
yeah,
And it's not something that we just kind of graduate to, like, like, oh well, I've been saved, I asked Jesus into my heart and now all is well and I can do
right,
whatever I want now. That's not what it is. It's like we are called to every single day, like, confess our sins and to take up our cross and to follow Christ and to pursue him and to be active in that desire and that longing for connection and relationship with God, and
right.
then others too, love God, love people.
Yeah,
So it's not like we graduate and we're just like, there, we got it now. We're all good
right.
to go. It's an ongoing process of refining our hearts, purifying our heart and soul, and living being a living, breathing testimony of the good work that God has done in our lives. Right?
Yeah,
So, and I think that too, like a lot of people just assume like, well, I accepted Jesus into my heart and now everything's supposed to be fine, right?
yeah,
So, and then like even with like the whole self-righteous thing, it's like, well, it's really hard for us to see the log in our own eye, but it's really easy for us to like look at other people and be like, wow, Bonnie's got a stick in her eye. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but
Totally.
Melanie's just carrying a whole forest with her. I don't know. So, but it's just interesting how like the human perception for ourselves is like we always like, and maybe I'm the only one, maybe I am, but it's like I'm always the victim. I'm always like, oh
Hmm.
no, like this happened
Hmm.
to me. Oh no, what am I like, how could they say that, how could they do that? Or
Wow.
Susie at church on Sunday really scowled at me. But
Right.
I've had days where I've got so many things happening, I'm
Right.
overwhelmed, and I've just got this resting unhappy face on my face. And I'm sure that, like, if you look at me from across the church, I
Right.
might look like I just hate you and hate everybody. And you could read into that, no problem. But
Right.
at the end of the day, like, there's something else going on for me. I'm not even thinking about you. My eyes may be looking towards you, but they're looking through you because I'm so fixated on something that I'm struggling with, that I'm wrestling
Right.
with, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Humans are just so interesting.
Totally. And I think that when we do see God a little bit more clearly and we recognize, well, I'll even say this. There was one time where um, there was a leader in our life, Brian's in my life. Brian and I had been married for maybe a few years at the time. And there was just like a leader in our life that we had really respected. And then some stuff happened where I was like, I was kind of venting to my husband and I was just like, it's so frustrating. Like, I wish I could, I wish that I could agree with him on this thing. And then I remember saying, like, I just wish there was one person I could follow that I could agree with on every. And then I'm like, oh, right. That's why we follow Jesus. And we're not in this to follow, like, I know Paul said, like, follow me as I follow Christ, but ultimately our eyes are on Christ. And when we come to a gathering of people and we don't see ourselves rightly and we think we have it together, we think we're good enough, then we are going to, yeah, we're going to expect a lot from people and not show them grace and mercy, you know? And it's like we're all dead in our trespasses. Every last one of us. I heard someone say years ago, the ground at the foot of the cross is level. Because and in the garden with Adam and Eve, when they rebelled against God's instruction, they took the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and they ate it. That one trespass unleashed death within the human race. And it was passed down kind of like an inheritance, a genetic like just defect through us all. And I was always confused by that because I thought like death to me when I was young meant to cease to exist. And it's like, well, it doesn't look like they ceased to exist. They just had to leave the garden. But then when I started to understand the like body, soul, spirit aspect of who we are, is that before Christ regenerates us in that first moment of salvation, our body is alive and our soul is alive and kicking, but our spirit, it's like it's almost like you're, I want to say like, well, it's more than just like a dead battery because it's actually it's like decaying and rot, like there's a rot within the spirit, but it's like you're not receiving signals from heaven or from God to you. But then when you come, and that's all of us. So whether, you know, you're in the church service every Sunday, paying your tithes, going on missions trips, or you're like sleeping around, addicted to drugs, like addicted to pornography, abusing, like hurting people, stealing, what, like dead in our trespasses. And so I think for like there can be such a religious spirit with those who haven't yet recognized that they're not good and that they don't have what it takes to reboot the system of their spirit. But then Jesus says like, but I didn't come for the healthy. I came for the sick. I came for those who were dead to resurrect them back to life. And so it really does change our relationship with each other when when we recognize, maybe where we're all at in the journey is different. But if you've accepted Christ and you have been made a child of God through that salvation, that regeneration, we're brothers and sisters. And now our job is to help each other in that sanctifying journey and to like bring life to each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember one time, probably shortly after my back of the bus incident that night, singing a song. Uh, and I actually looked up. I'm like, I don't actually know who sang this song, but I looked it up today because it was a special moment. And it's called "If Not for Grace." And it's by a guy named Clint Brown. And in this song, he just sings this line: "If where would I be? God, you only know. I'm so glad you see through eyes of love. I was a hopeless case, um, an empty, I think it says an empty grave, if not for grace." And I remember singing that song and trying to kind of like imagine, man, God, like what would my life look like if you hadn't come for me? And I put myself into that like worst case scenario. I'd probably be addicted to heroin. I'd probably be a prostitute, like kind of. And it felt like the Spirit of God just interrupted me and just whispered, "No, you'd still be sitting in the pew at church, and you'd be dead inside." And I was like, right, it would be like, because maybe my personality, it's like I like community. I like the idea of philanthropy. I like singing songs together. Like it kind of fit my personality maybe. But without him, I'd be like, those would all be just dead works, you know? And so um, he I guess he just like lit the fireworks for me and made it mean something. And yeah.
He called you out of the grave.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And he's
Yeah.
still doing it. He's still doing it. My dead works, the things he's often challenging me and like instructing me to stop striving, to stop thinking that I can do it myself. He's always leading me back to like dependence on him and abiding with him. The John chapter 15 where Jesus says to his disciples, "If you will abide in me and let my words abide in you, then you will bear fruit that remains." And what is it? What does that mean other than like Revelation chapter 3 to sit down at the table with him? And we can all rush and be like Martha and feel that pressure to prepare, do the thing, do the good thing. And yes, we have good works to do, but first we must sit at Jesus' feet the way her Martha's sister Mary did, where Jesus says she's chosen the better thing and it's not going to be taken from her, you know? And so to break that religious spirit that says do more, prove yourself, and instead recognize like he finished the work on the cross and we get to then just partner with him and be led by him. I think it's really important.
And I love how you're like this whole interview, there's just a peace, like a deep sense of peace in knowing or experiencing that humility, right?
Hmm.
Of fully surrendering and acknowledging that, yeah, my salvation doesn't come from my works. My salvation doesn't come from how many times I go to church during the week or what community group I'm in or what kind of different service positions within the church. That's not where your salvation comes from. Your salvation comes from that relation, like from God, from Christ, from what he did.
Yeah.
And how do we receive that? Well, we receive it from him, and we need to be able, like, we need to present ourselves in a way of surrendering to him
Yeah.
and pursuing him like we've talked about. So
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, and I think it's so needed because complacency is just so rich, like in the world, whether
Mm,
or not
mhm,
you're a Christian, like people just are easily drawn into complacency and then like,
mhm,
well, why is my hips getting bigger? Because I'm sitting on the couch eating chips every single day and I'm not doing anything to physically use my body. I'm not
mhm.
feeding it good, healthy food. I'm not
Right.
I'm not going for a walk. I'm not going for the gym or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and over time, like we just get more and more comfortable in that complacency and we want more and more and more of it.
Right.
And then one day, like maybe scratching your head, like, wow, how did I get here? Like,
Totally.
what? What happened?
Yep. Yeah, scripture says, like, be alert, like, be sober minded, recognize what's happening in the world around you, because with even spiritual forces of darkness, like, be alert, you know? Um, and yeah, I mean, it's so tough. It's like to some people, I want to say, like, get up and do something. And then to other people, I want to be like, you can't solve all the problems. Sit down for a second. You know, it's like we express our brokenness in these diverse ways. But it's like, but the like God comes for all of us and will correct, like course correct us, all of us in the way he needs to.
What a great point, too, because it's not like easy to follow, do numbers 1, 2, and 3, and then you're there. Like, what a
Yeah.
great point that you're bringing up here, because I think that a lot of people and like even like online culture is like, buy my course and you will blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You right? Like, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same for everybody. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that, well, like we should all read the Bible. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that the Bible isn't going to
Totally.
work for everybody. I'm
Yep.
saying that like for your experience and your life and what you've been through, maybe it like I mean at 19 years old is when you had that aha moment, right?
Yep.
So
Totally.
for me, it was I had my aha moment at 21 when I hit rock bottom, and
Mm.
Christ like was like, "Hey, Melanie, like it's time to wake up."
Um,
So and like it happens for people at different times, and even like you said before too, like how do you like some people just don't have like a pivotal moment in their story. It's just more of a gradual progression of wanting to dig deeper and become
yeah.
more and more aware of God. And I think a lot of times, like I think of the spiritual wilderness a lot. Like I love the wilderness in general,
Mm.
like the outside trees and stuff. But the spiritual wilderness, like for so many years, I would find myself in these seasons of isolation of like just like having people removed from my life that I
Mhm.
wanted to be there, of losing loved ones,
Mhm.
like like I lost my dad's best friend died by suicide when I was just a kid, and like he was my
Mm.
favorite human, right?
Mhm.
So a very deep loss, and it was just
Mhm.
like I'd always go through these different seasons in my life of just feeling so isolated and alone. And part of me did know and recognize that Christ was there with me in it, but there was also just such a darkness,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to connect or understand or like tune in to the spirit. It was more just became this festering ground for my soul where I just
Mhm.
like build a case against God. And then
Yes.
so like when I received Christ again at 21 and just like surrendered everything to him in that moment,
Mhm.
um from then it like gradually, like I'd still go through seasons of isolation. I still lost friendships that I really wanted to make work, and like different things in my life, or even like jobs of like just wanting
Yeah.
certain things in my life, right? And it like I would always find myself in this wilderness, the spiritual wilderness, even in like my pursuit of Christ, of like being on fire, and then all of a sudden I'm like I don't really want to read my Bible.
Right.
Um, but like over time, gradually, like I started to learn that I needed to just like, rest when I made it
Mm.
into that wilderness. Okay, I'm isolated. Things are being removed from me. I need to
Mm.
just sit still, be still and know that I'm God. Okay,
Right.
God's got me. And it took like a lot
Wow.
of refining to get to that point. So I still have moments in my life where I am in the wilderness. And
Yeah.
quite honestly, it's turned to something of joy,
Mm.
because I'm given this space and this time to just be still. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, God, okay, well that didn't work out,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
know, I'm here with you, and that's all I really
Yeah.
want. That's all I really need. And just resting in that. Like I'm getting like God bumps right now just
Mhm.
talking about it. Like it's
Yeah.
just become, and like also like
Mm.
looking back and seeing like, wow, how many times did he invite me into this sacred space of
Right.
being just one-on-one with him, and like, hey Melanie, I'm here. Can you be here too? Right? And how many
Yeah.
times I've just been like, no, 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 like stop talking, like I need to go, I need to go, I need to go, like panicked. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I need to be somewhere else. I need something else, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh man. I relate the sense of like in the times of suffering, in the times of loss, just like how kind he is and how like he shows up for me. And I think how now, like, I don't know, it's like now knowing my own frailty and my own weakness and my own, just like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel useless. It's just like, why does he want to be friends with me? Why would he adopt me into the family? And yeah, like that we aren't alone. And sometimes, to be like real or vulnerable, sometimes I find God safer than people. I find him more consistent, more intuitive, more like present, and I'm like, and I feel myself just like, I'll just be with you, Lord. And then I feel God say like, and I made you to connect with my body. Like don't forsake the gathering. And being a part of a church community is such a high value for me, for us, for our family. Um that's a huge value, but like invest in those relationships, in those imperfect relationships, in those they don't really understand me yet relationships, and the vulnerability that takes to like, do they like me as much as I like them? Like you have to
Mm.
it's like I'm almost 40, and that's just the human heart, right? Of the vulnerability of wanting to be loved and accepted. And that's where it is. Love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul. And then the second command is similar. I'm like, yeah, it is kind of similar, isn't it, God? Is like what we learn with him, then we have to go take it over to others and like and fight for and work towards, and um to learn how to be faithful to brothers and sisters in the body of Christ, and not give up on it, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah. And have like the same grace for other people that maybe
Yeah.
can, I mean, there's people in the church. I mean, come on, we've been talking about it. Like there's people in the church that sit in the
Mhm.
pews that are complacent Christians that don't know where there's
Right.
if their salvation is real. There's
Yeah.
people that aren't even thinking about it. They're just like, well, I've always gone here, so this is just what I
Yeah.
do, right?
Totally.
And then there's people that are there like struggling with really heavy sin and like,
Yeah.
I am unworthy, I am dirty, I am unclean. Or
Totally.
there's even people that are struggling with like the corruption of money and like like fame
Total
or whatever, right? Like so there's,
Totally.
like you said, like Jesus came to save the sick, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just knowing that when like God calls us into relationship with him, but he calls us into relationship with others within the church. And I think sometimes we can look at like the pretty church people that just seem like their
Mhm.
lives are so perfect and
Yeah.
wonderful. And we're like, I want to be friends with those people because they
Mhm.
look cool, but I also don't feel like I belong there because I'm not the same as them. And then we kind of like shrug off all the other people because
Huh.
we're fixating on a certain group of people within the church that we think that we want to identify with or whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
then like when we say like love God, love people, it's
Hmm.
loving the people of the church, all of the people, not just the people that we have compared ourselves to. And you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
we, yeah.
I think that there's two pieces there. Um, that sense of, look at all the pretty church people who look like they have it together. If you understand the nature of sin, and that the ground is level at the foot of the cross, you realize there are no pretty put together people. So the ones that look like they have it all together, you're not fooled by it. And so, like, even in the work that my husband and I do in these areas of sexuality and identity, we have people confessing things to us or telling us their stories, and sometimes they'll be like saying like, this is you're the first person I've told, and they think we're going to be mortified or shocked. But I feel like I don't get so shocked anymore, because I know the nature of sin is that we all have something, right? And so it's just, I'm like, it's only just a matter of time until we find out what your something is versus what my something is. And so that it kind of gets rid of that sense of like, they're the good ones, these are the like not so good ones. And now I'm like, okay, and then what was my other thought? I can't remember. But just like that, we don't strive to be an image. We try to be ourselves, try to find people that you could like link arms with and pursue God together with, be honest about what's really going on with. And it says in James, is it like James chapter 1 or chapter 2, where it talks about like, when you gather together with the church and you look at the rich person and you say, here, I've saved a spot for you. And then there's a poor man and you say, here, you can sit at my feet. And James just like flat out rebukes them. And they're like, stop that right now. We have to like let the ground be even. Right. And I think that's even where some of that instruction to women about the way that they're dressing, it's like, it was about like, don't be a show off because you're making other people feel like they're lesser than. So just like you can look pretty. That's great. Like you don't have to fake something, but like make sure that nobody feels pushed away because they're not as put together as you. And I can remember years ago before Brian and I were married, and there was this young woman who was a part of our young adult group, but she didn't always like follow personal hygiene, common sense. And so sometimes she would like just smell bad. And I remember one Sunday her coming, or like, I don't remember how it exactly worked, but it was like we were standing beside each other in worship and I could smell her. And she's worshiping, she's probably got her hands lifted. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to stand beside her, God. And he was like, stand beside her and love her, even though she stinks a little, because we all stink a little in different ways. But stand beside her and break off the spirit of rejection that she has lived with, right? And don't partner with the enemy's lies in her life that she thinks, oh, why does everybody just leave me? Don't partner with that spirit. Like, counter it. Show love where maybe it goes against your natural inclination. And yeah, it's just those little lessons that we can't find on our own with just God, and that he wants us to find with people, you know?
Yeah.
I hope
Created for
I just hope I'm still doing it. I'm like, Lord, I hope my heart's still soft to stand beside anybody. I try to. I want to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a heart posture.
Yeah.
But I think that's like where that you don't graduate comes from, because we
Yes.
have to remain dependent upon Christ like every single day, and we're going to slip up. There's going to be people that come next to us and, okay, you smell. I mean, maybe it's going to be me. Maybe it's me.
Totally. Lift up holy hands.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so good. Like so many good reminders just in this conversation that we've had today. And like I feel like it's just like pulling the curtain back and kind of exposing some things that maybe it's hit with some of the listeners that have listened to this episode today. like, what would you say for people that maybe didn't realize that they were wrestling with what you've wrestled with,
Hmm.
and like just some encouragement or
Mm.
like, I don't know. What do you got for
Yeah.
these people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing would be beware of the religious spirit. And like Jesus talks about to beware of the yeast of Herod and the yeast of the Pharisees, which is like another, like the yeast of the Pharisees would be that, like what I'm referring to, that religious spirit that would constantly live in a place of comparison, of striving, of trying to be good enough apart from God, of it leads to being judgmental. I was pondering the other day that, like, that religious attitude, like James talks about a pure religion, which is to, take care of the widows and the orphans and to keep oneself undefiled from the world. So I'm not saying but that religious spirit, I hope I'm being clear, um, is that that religious attitude will naturally lead to performance, which will naturally in time make you recognize your own inadequacies, which then will lead to unbelief because you'll think, this is impossible. I cannot do this. And you start to put limitations on what God could do. So the religious spirit ends up hardening your own heart. So beware of striving. And then the other thing would be, if you want to be free of it, think of the scriptures not like something on your to-do list, but think of it like a meal to be eaten. And you just need calories. Your spirit needs calories in order to get stronger. So I know what it was like. Brian and I have had this conversation because Brian came to the Lord later, like after his teen years. He was more like the kid who was more stereotypically rebellious, came to the Lord. And for him, like, beer represented his old life. And then he came to the Lord, and as he's been walking along, then he'll say to me, like, I'm going to do this Bible reading plan. Do you want to do it? And I'll be like, no. Bible reading plan to me is like beer is to you. Because Bible reading plans used to mean I'm going to try my best and I'm going to fail. Like, I'm going to feel the striving. And so I've talked to a lot of church kids who feel like I need to pray more. I need to pray more, but that reminds me of the old religious striving. So you got to kind of break out of that paradigm and just think, this is food and water for my spirit. And I just need to eat something today. That's all. I'm just eating something. And man does not live on bread alone, but by the words that come from God to me. And so don't forget to eat is maybe what I would say.
I like that. A meal to be eaten. It's so true. Like, I crave it.
Right.
Not all the time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, really, God? Do I have to?
Do I have to cook
But
again? Yeah.
do I really? Like, it's just like making the time, sitting down, doing the stuff, like, okay, reading the word. And then you have to like kind of get into the story or whatever you're reading and like, okay, what does this even mean? And then you find out what it means. And then eventually, though, it like kind of sinks into me. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow when I get to read my Bible again. Like, I just turned into a little nerd and I love it.
That's so good. Which I feel like, man, people need help in that journey of learning to read their Bibles because it's intimidating to start.
It is. Yeah, it can
Yeah.
be for sure.
I feel like you should do a TED talk on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. No, I usually just organize them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. One thing I want to bring up before we close out this interview is I want to bring up the fact that, Bonnie, you said when you were in the back of that bus that God called you out. And I wonder, for the people that are really struggling in their relationship with God, struggling to get connected, struggling to understand like how to sift through like Bible reading as a chore versus Bible reading as a meal. Are you willing to allow the Spirit to call you out on your stuff? Right? Because we can be so focused on our own self-righteousness and not even know that we're sick. And like we'll do anything and everything except be willing to be called out. Right?
Yeah. That's really cool. It's interesting even if like First Peter talks about or even like the word church, it has to do with being a called out people.
Yeah.
But that's obviously like, now it's nuanced in English right now of
Yeah.
like, oh, he totally called me out. It's like to be a part of the called out people. Yeah, you have to be willing um to be like spoken to and corrected and yield to it. That's good. I don't know if I've ever
Yeah.
thought of it like that before. The called out people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's how Christianity offends a lot of people in like the secular realm, is because, oh, you're saying that I'm a sinner, or you're saying that I'm wrong, or my life is
Yeah.
blah, right?
Yeah.
Like we can get very offended
Mhm.
if you're going to try to change anything about who we are or who we
Yeah.
perceive ourselves to be.
Yep.
But I mean, Jesus calls all of us out of our old life
Mhm.
and into his new life. And I think that we need to be reminded that he's not calling us to something that is worse than what we have now. He's calling us to something that we were designed to be in, the Garden of Eden, a life without sin, a life without corruption, a life without pain and suffering. Like one day, we will cry no more tears. We will experience no more pain. We will be in the presence of the God that created us on purpose for the purpose of being in relationship with us. And we will have that for all of eternity if we choose to seek out the heart of God.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of room
There's
for
so
anyone.
much room.
Yeah.
Come on over. Sit with
Totally.
us.
Yes. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Bonnie, I just want to say a huge thank you to carving out the time to be with me here today with this podcast. And can you just let the listeners know, like, where can they connect with you, or if there's any information about the union movement that you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. My personal Instagram tag is just at Bonnie Pue. And I'll just say, like, if someone's listening and they're like, man, I just need someone to pray with me or, to process a part of maybe what you've heard, like, feel free to DM me there and I'll do my best to get back to you in a prompt fashion. Um, and yeah, so that's my personal tag. And then you can find us with at the Union Movement. You can find out more of the work we're doing there around the area of sexuality and identity and relationships, as well as at our website, which is theunionmovement.com, where you can find some video resources, a blog library. We also have a podcast, and which is just the Union podcast. So that's some places where people can find what we're doing. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for having this conversation. I love and so appreciate that you are giving time and attention to. I just know your heart for people who might be ready to walk away, but maybe just need to get in the back of a bus somewhere and let the Lord call them out.
Yes, yes, yes. Listeners, get in the back of that bus and allow God to call you out and into an abundant and beautiful relationship with him. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for your kind words. And again, just for taking the time to join me here today on Rekindled Faith. Listeners, if you're interested in connecting with Bonnie, then I will have all of her stuff linked in the show notes. And also, if you're interested in having either Bonnie, Brian, or myself speak at your next event, you can check out the Apologetics Canada page or website. I'll have that also in the bio, and then you can see all of our speaker pages there and request us to speak through there. And yes, thanks again for tuning in this week, and I look forward to connecting again next week. Bye for now.